All right. Well, I'm going to say welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight this evening to learn about what you can have in your medicine chest so that you can avoid over-the-counter medications, right? And learn how to support and rebuild your immune system so that it responds better and faster, and you can do it with food, which I think is wonderful, you know. And so I should back up a minute. I think all of you know me, but I just say hi. I'm Sophie, lead practitioner here at the Nutritional Wellness Center, and I'm here to talk to you tonight because I'm really passionate about what I do. I'm very excited about being able to rebuild my body with nutrition, and the fact that I get to do that and help people do that every day. And want to share with you what my family does this time of year, what I end up doing with a lot of clients this time of year as we all enter into what's called this cold and flu season, right? And talk a bit about why that comes about. And so most of you know my story, but I just want to share it really briefly. You know, part of the reason that I got drawn into this work was because of my own health and figuring that out. I luckily was healthy as a child, like in sense of colds and flus and things like that, but I did have little symptoms that started at a young age, and they just sort of built upon themselves until really it was in college that I became aware that I was having things that just weren't right. You know, I was really shaky in between eating. I had bad stomach aches after eating. I'd have to lie down before going to orchestra because the gas and the bloating was so bad that I couldn't play the viola until it passed, you know. And so when I started making changes, then I tried to figure things out, but it really didn't seem to make any difference. And then it was after graduating college that I got Lyme disease, and while I didn't really do anything in the moment, didn't recognize it in the moment, it was about 6 months later that I started getting arthritic symptoms, and I knew something was really wrong. And that's when I did antibiotics, and when that didn't fully resolve it, that I started looking towards alternative medicine for help. So I started working with a person who did applied kinesiology, a form of muscle testing, and was a chiropractor, and started studying herbs. But when I got to Ithaca is when I started working with Tara here, who founded the Nutritional Wellness Center, and that was the first time that I really directly started feeling myself getting well. The stomach aches and the bloating, the gas, all the digestive piece cleared up quickly, and then with more time, the Lyme symptoms cleared up as well. And so I knew I had to do this work, basically. I went back to school, studied nutrition, and I was like, Tara, will you hire me? And she said yes. It was awesome. And that's why I'm here today. And so everything that we're going to be talking about, you know, I've been applying with clients for the past 6 years, but I also use on a regular basis with myself, use it with my family. It's been fun having small children because I get to experiment on them, and I see how they're responding to it too. And I know, like, if I have an adult who's like, oh, I don't want to do this, I'm like, well, my 2-year-old will do it, so we can figure out a way for you to do it too. And it gives us that wiggle room for that. So we are going to be talking more about this time of year, right, where everyone starts getting really worried about getting the flu, getting sick. You know, it can be really serious, especially for people with weakened immune systems, or when you're older, you know, it can take a hard hit. And so what can we do to keep our bodies built up so that we don't become susceptible? And then what do you do in that moment when you're not feeling good, and knowing how to help your body recover naturally so that you're not taking something that, while might help your immune system, is also full of dyes and colors and all sorts of things you don't necessarily want to be putting into your body as well. And what's wonderful is that while we work in this practice from the perspective of building your body up and repairing it and repairing the organs that are struggling, which I'll talk about more later, we also work with a bunch of things that can be used acutely, and you don't have to come into an appointment and be told that you can take it, that you can have in your own medicine chest and reach for if needed. And I just want to teach you how to use certain things so that you know what to use when. But at one point I really do want to make, and it talks about this in this nutritional essentials that you have and that you guys can read on your own time, it's just that you know, there's so much fear surrounded getting sick and these different flu pandemics or phenomenons that happen, but there hasn't really been a lot of conversation or a lot of research about what's also gone on nutritionally during those times. And there absolutely is a correlation between nutritional deficiencies and how easily you become ill, how quickly your body then recovers once you become ill, if you do, if the fact that when you get ill, if it like cycles into something else and becomes much more severe in one person versus another, or then these secondary infections develop. Like those are all signs of nutritional deficiency. And one of the things I love about when I'm working with people is that very often, you know, you come in for a whole myriad of different health concerns, and then as we get further down the road of working together, they'll kind of look around one day and be like, wow, I just made it through the whole winter and I didn't get sick. Or, you know, my kids have been sick constantly and I'm not. And just making that observation, and that's just a sign of the body working better, of those nutritional deficiencies being met. And thus, you know, you can be kissing your baby that's been at daycare and like is covered all sorts of stuff, and you don't come down with it. And that, I think, is really exciting. And I think that's really the direction of like how to take care of our bodies long term. And so that's listed in your flu virus remedy handout. You can read more about that. But I do want to really just jump into like the fun stuff. I think it's fun talking about the supplements. So we're gonna jump into that. One of your other handouts is our general cold and flu relief handout. So this is going to be kind of your guide that you can take home and pull out if you start to get sick, or if someone around you is sick and you don't quite remember what to do. And we'll talk about the first one on the list, which is Cataplexy. And please feel free to ask questions, to jump in. This doesn't have to be like a formal talk, you know, if you're wondering about it. But Cataplexy is really my go-to first thing to grab if I get that, I've got a sore throat or something's not quite right, energy's starting to tank. Because it was designed as a blend by Standard Process. So it's got specific thymus extract, which is support for your thymus gland, which makes all your white blood cells and helps keep your immune system going. It has calcium, a very easily absorbable form of calcium, which is very important when you're having any form of immune challenge. As you can read all about it in the Cataplexy handout, but the calcium helps so many different specific functions of the immune system. Again, with the magnesium, like we're really highly mineral needy, especially when becoming sick. And then the RNA piece too, it's helping, it's one of those magics of the Standard Process formula. I feel like I could look at that and even just tell you, well, I'm sure a Standard Process rep could stand here and tell you why they've got the RNA in it. I don't really care because I know that it works, but it's again that piece of all the different factors that go into building our immunity and keeping our immunity up. And I find that this product can be used nicely for kids who are in school or people who work in the school systems, just to take low dose all the time and help them from not getting sick. And then you can start taking really high doses of it when you get that, I'm getting sick moment, and it really helps to ward it off. So as you can see here on the cold and flu relief handout, like on onset, it talks about 2 capsules every 30 to 60 minutes. And you just keep repeating that till you're sure you're not coming down with it. But if you have already come down with it, then it doses lower dose. So sometimes I see 4 a day, 6, 10 in that range. And it's one of those things where if you're not sure it's viral or if you're not sure it's bacterial, it doesn't matter. It covers that whole scope.
Could you repeat that as far as, before you're sick and then once you are sick, and the approximate amount that you should take?
Yeah, so it is listed on that cold and flu relief handout, but I'll repeat it again. So kind of low dose, like if you're worried about getting sick or you're surrounded, you work in a daycare or things like that, taking about 1 or 2 a day can kind of just keep overall immunity up and keep you from not getting sick. But then if you get that, I'm really coming down with this, then it's like 2 every 30 minutes or 2 every hour. So you end up going through a lot those first couple of days, and because you want to stay at that high sustained amount till you're like, okay, I'm good. Because if you stop too soon, that's the biggest error with this whole cold and flu protocol, is like you stop too soon, then you just get sick. Yeah. And then, but then if you are sick, and it's already happening, then there's no point in going through that many of them. Usually anywhere from like 6 to 10 a day tends to handle it.
Sophie, I swear by this stuff. It works so.
It works so well.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm glad you've had that experience with it. It's like magic, I find, when it's the right product and you get it dosed, like you get right on it. Yeah. But the most important message is act fast. And really don't hesitate. If you're like, oh, it's not just that I'm tired tonight, I am feeling really worn down or some other symptom.
Would the dose be the same for adults and children?
It's lower. No, it's lower. They make a chewable Cataplexy that tends to go over more with little kids because it's raspberry flavored. And then even when sick, I don't tend to see them dose. We're talking about ranges, but my daughter's 5.5. I've never had her take more than 4 at a time in a day.
Okay.
But again, it's still just 1 a day of the chewable works really nicely as a preventative.
Okay.
Yeah, and if the child will swallow pills, then the pill-based one be fine. You don't have to do the chewable.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and that would apply for all these food-based ones from Standard Processed. All totally safe to give to kids. Some of what I call the bigger guns coming up, like if you really are sick, are some more herbs, and that can be. There's different opinions about giving them to kids, but I'll talk about that more in a bit. Yeah.
So if you were to give to a child that you thought was coming down with something, you still wouldn't give more than 4 a day?
I haven't,
okay.
But
you haven't, and it's worked.
And it's worked. Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you, yeah, like
with the chewables.
Yeah, the chewables, like. I mean, just this morning, Gemma was kind of droopy, like didn't necessarily want to go to school. They have that rule of like, if they have a fever, then they can't go, and it was borderline, and I really wanted her to go to school, so I needed her, too. And because I have the opportunity to, I muscle tested her, and so like then I was able to put her on a supplement. She perks right up. I'm like, all right, go to school, But in a similar situation, when I've not had the time to test her or whatever, I just give her a couple of Cataplexy, and it just seems to. I've never had to do the emergency dosing that we're talking about with like the 2 every 30 minutes that seems to work with adults. Just find kids are so responsive in general. But again, it would not do any harm. Not going to overdose on it. It's just food. So, yeah, I know. And that brings us, what's next? So, my next one after that, they might not be in exact order in your packet, but it's Cataplexy AC. Because it's related to Cataplexy, there is some Cataplexy AC formula in the Cataplexy formula. And so sometimes I find it's just per the specific individual that some people do better with AC versus some people do better with Cataplexy. But it's my next one to grab, particularly if you suspect that it's the flu, like stomach flu or actual flu, because it's really high in vitamin A, it's really high in vitamin C, as it talks about on here, on a variety of plant and animal sources. And so those are easily absorbable, digested by the body, and then it has Echinacea in it as well, which is a plant that also has a lot studied about it that helps to modulate the immune system and get an immune response, particularly when it's more viral. And I like to travel with Cataplexy AC. Some people like Cataplexy too because it's that broad spectrum immune support, but I just find when I'm flying, Cataplexy AC helps me stay healthier. And if I'm suspecting anything with stomach being off, a stomach bug, or someone around me having the flu or the flu going around an area, then that's the one I reach for too. Because just being it's more concentrated than the amount that you'll get in it from Cataplexy. And one of the best things to do is, like, if you start with Cataplexy and it doesn't seem like Cataplexy is working, then switch over to Cataplexy AC. If you can't get in to get tested or whatever, or if it's a loved one who doesn't do the program, you know what I mean? You just switch to the next one, and you can do similar emergency dosing with the AC. Where you can take 9 to 12 tablets spread throughout the day. Totally fine. I have given Cataplexy AC to little kids. I mean, my daughter is about to be 2, and she'll chew it down and eat it. And I'm not concerned. I feel like you can give Echinacea to young children. It's totally safe. As long as, they're around that, over the age of 1. So that's usually the safe when they're eating a full spectrum of foods and things like that too. And the same for the throat spray. Do we do a little, I don't think we did a printout on the throat spray, but it's fine. It's on your cold and flu relief handout, and it's a wonderful just roundabout, like it helps your throat feel better, but then it also builds your whole immune system. And it's some stronger herbs, but it's, again, I think because you're not digesting the whole thing, like I did it throughout pregnancy, I give my kids like to do it, like I'm not at all worried about its safety, versus if you were ingesting larger amounts of it. And it can be nice even just if you're talking too much or you're a singer or things like that, it can really just help to moisten and relieve the throat. And then some of the bigger guns are kind of towards the back. We've got the whole Echinacea Premium and Androgaphis Complex. These are herbs from MediHerb. These are things that I find if you've got a cold that's really not clearing up, that's what's great to reach for. Often by that stage, people are calling up, they're saying, I'm not getting better, or they're coming in for an appointment and we're seeing that the other ones aren't responding. But Androgaphis Complex has Echinacea in it, but it also has holy basil in it, and it has the Androgaphis herb. And it's an interesting plant and a really interesting blend. I've been seeing it test well for people who've recently been diagnosed with Lyme as well, in conjunction with other things, but it's one of these stronger supports for the immune system. It helps with a sinus, if something's turning into a sinus infection, like headed in that direction, often more bacterial oriented, really green mucus, things like that. Androgaphis helps, whereas Echinacea I find more effective if it's kind of a virus that's not cleaning up. And tucked in there is also a product called Antron X, which is a really cool product from Standard Process that's a liver extract. And I have clients on it for so many different reasons, because it's tied, this specific liver extract is tied into helping clean up histamine buildup in the body. And histamine buildup can happen for so many different reasons. And often when you're getting a lot of sinus congestion, right, you're getting allergies, but also getting sinus congestion from being sick, having a cold, that's all tied into how well is your body like cleaning things out, how much like congestion is happening, how much buildup is happening, and thus you're experiencing this really uncomfortable symptom. And Antron X helps with that. So I often pair it with something like Cataplexy, or I pair it with the AC or things like that, because your immune system then starts fighting all these immune challenges off with the food support from the Cataplexy or the AC, and then you need up your cleanup crew. You need someone going in there and helping the sinuses to drain out and everything to clear out. And Antron X does a really nice job with that. But it has even more versatile options too, in the sense that because it's tied into a histamine response, it can help with allergies. So I find people separate from being sick, you're responding to ragweed, reach for Antron X, try it. You can dose it like 3 every 20 minutes if you're having a sneezing attack, and often it helps. It helps with poison ivy. It helps with lots of bug bites. It is like anything kind of skin rash related. It's just a great thing to have in your medicine chest so that you can reach for it and give it a try. Any questions so far? I'm trying not to go too fast, but I have a tendency to just rattle off a ton of information about supplements. I can see you, Sarah, trying to follow me, and I can repeat any of this for you if you need me to. Yeah, at any point. Yeah.
I'll be asking questions.
You ask her some questions. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. We'll build your own custom medicine chest together. Yeah. And finishing up, kind of talking about the cold and flu relief handout, there are just some lovely things that you can do too that are not supplement at all. But things like your raw apple cider vinegar that you can use as your salad dressings. You can use as a digestive aid, but also helps build the immune system. And it's lovely to mix with a little bit of honey and a bit of hot water if you're feeling sick, and use that to as a part of your protocol, kind of your cold protocol, to get better. It's so important when you're sick to drink lots of liquids. So that's where the lemon's listed on there, the ginger, again the raw honey to make it more palatable or to soothe your throat, and then the bone broth. Bone broth is a nutrient powerhouse. You might be seeing more and more about it recently because they're trying to turn it into powders and do all sorts of stuff with it, but also people are learning more and more about how beneficial it is, and when you boil the bones for that long, you not only extract all the minerals from it, you extract all the collagen and the glutamine that helps repair the lining of the intestines and things like that. So it's a very soothing, reparative beverage. And if you have not tried it before, I encourage you to. Yeah. All right, any questions about the cold and flu handout specifically versus any of the other handouts? I kind of skipped over talking about Emmy Plex because it's not on the cold and flu handout, but I wanted to include it for you guys tonight because it is such a nice product, and I was realizing it's one of the ones that I reach for too. Like, I'm currently taking it because of the girls I was telling you about, going, it's just ever since my daughter Gemma has been in a little Montessori school, she brings so many more things home, right? And she recovers quickly, but it just seems to be like, we're kind of tracing it through the family, right? And so my go-to is Emmy Plex for myself. It's has zinc in it, has selenium, B6, vitamin C, and in my training with nutrition response testing, it's usually something I reach for more if it's like a viral type situation. But I find that it works in many situations, and that people do really well on it. And
There it is.
and Sarah takes it, and she does well on it, right? And so do you. Yeah, it can be, it's one I use a lot for long-term rebuilding in autoimmune type situations too. So it's really an interesting product in terms of what are the nutritional deficiencies that are needing it for an acute situation or for a long-term situation as well. I have so many clients who have Hashimoto's thyroiditis test well for Emmy Plex, and they're on it for years. Yeah.
Sophie, what's the dosage of that?
The Emmy Plex? It tends to be a lower dose one. I rarely see it dose higher than 6 for like acute situations. And then when it's like a low dose, like the person's just trying to keep the immunity up, then it's around 1 or 2 a day. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for asking for that, because I know that's not on the cold and flu relief one. So much in terms of keeping your immunity up is also about getting enough sleep and, following your dietary guidelines. We're going to be talking more later about that piece and how that ties into it at this time of year. But before I talk more about that, I just wanted to draw your attention to one other supplement that I wanted to talk about tonight, just because it's one that I see people do so well on, and it's a really nice thing to have in your medicine chest because of its diverse uses, and that's the Gastrix that's listed that you have the handout for. Gastrix and I became good friends during my first pregnancy when I had a lot of acid reflux. It's a product that I use a lot to help people transition off of acid reflux medications and deal with the underlying cause of that, because it's designed to be soothing for the whole digestive system. And you can open up the capsules into water before drinking it. rather than swallowing the capsule, and then it starts coating things all the way from the esophagus all the way down. So kind of any irritation on the whole lining of the digestive tract versus being, burning or acid reflux issues that are higher, or pains that are lower, or even a lot of lower bowel gas, things like that. It can help all the way along the digestive tract. So for me, it was huge with, I put a little apple cider vinegar in some water. I'd open up 3 capsules of Gastritis and I would drink that down, and it was not tasty, but it worked, and it kept me away from Tums or other things that, it also for colicky babies, so some of them actually start liking it. I'm working with one mom right now whose baby really struggled and really colicky, and mom has been changing her diet while nursing her, and it's been getting better and things like that, but she just opens up the capsule and puts a little bit of the powder on her finger and into the baby's mouth, and she likes it. She licks it off now, and that started at quite a young age, and she's now just turning 6 months, I think. And so it's safe. There have been nights where I've had a screaming child, in pain with some kind of gas pain, and I've made her eat Gastrix powder. She's gonna hate me when I'm older, but it worked, you know what I mean? And she would calm down and go back to sleep. So it's a cool product. And one of those ones that you can use safely, you can experiment with and have it there and just see if it helps with these things that come up. Cool. And so those are the main things in my medicine chest. Sure. The whole nutrient powerhouse there, lots of awesome supplements that I think you can get more comfortable with time. It's like Penny was saying earlier, she's a believer, she's tried it and it's worked for her. And it's one of those things where if you have it, have faith, reach for it first, give it a try. It's I used to, growing up, I grew up on NyQuil, and then through college, that was my go-to. It would be NyQuil, and I didn't think that I could recover from the cold without it, And then as soon as I tried doing other things, I was like, oh, cool, I can do this instead. And then it reinforces the healing by you kind of knowing when you reach for it that it's going to help you too. Alrighty. I got a couple things in here I don't need to tell you guys about for me. But a big piece of thing I find so interesting about this whole cold and flu season is that it really starts to pick up speed around now. I mean, it picks up a little bit when kids are back at school, and there's that mixing that happens. But it really picks up more speed right around Halloween, and then it keeps chugging along through Thanksgiving, through Christmas, into Valentine's Day, then into Easter, and then it starts to quiet down and clear up again. And I see a pattern there, I don't know if any of you else do, of what we're eating during that time and what's predominant and what we have a lot more kind of excuses and reasons to be partaking in, especially with kids and especially with how it's marketed, and that's with sugar. And so a huge piece, I think, of why clients do well here with how their immune system's changed is really because of these dietary changes and about what they're regularly putting into their body and how that changes. And that kind of segues into what else I was going to talk about, which is I see that big pattern with sugar, but I do see overall so much that anything can cause anything with how people's bodies respond and why they're having a chronic immune challenge or why they're starting to get sick all the time. Doesn't always have to do with, most people are eating too much sugar, yes, but it also can do with just a particular issue going on with their body and their immune system. And I was going to explain a little bit more about that. Because it's on my little triangle here. Some of you have heard me say this before, and so I always say just repair it. It's worth repeating, hearing it multiple times. What we've got here is also got poor health across the top. You could imagine getting sick a lot, right, along the top, or like a really bad repetition of chronic bronchitis. I mean, I work with many people who it's just like they report to me chronic sinus infections or chronic bronchitis, or they can't get through the year without turning into something like that. And you can see on this board, we've got that immune challenge listed on the top, nutritional deficiency in one corner, and then organ dysfunction in the other corner. And the main thing I want to explain is that I really don't see any kind of instance of poor health without there also being nutritional deficiency and without there also being organ dysfunction. And what's important and what's a key piece of what I do is identifying for the individual what is their specific nutritional deficiency or what is their specific organ dysfunction. Because then when we identify that, we get to the root cause and we start reversing it. So if you know with a triangle, if you pull like on one corner, it throws off all the other corners. And the same is true for your symptoms and for your body. So if you already are, experiencing some kind of poor health, or you're getting recurrent sinus infections, say as an example, I can tell you for sure that there are certain vitamins and minerals that you're deficient in. And since these vitamins and minerals are fuel for your organs, then you have certain organs that are not functioning and working at 100%. And as soon as these organs are not working at 100%, their ability to absorb, digest, and utilize your vitamins and minerals diminishes. So it creates this vicious cycle, right? The more nutrient deficient you become, the more severe your symptoms become, the more severe your symptoms become, the more stress happens on your organs, and you start going on this downward spiral. And so what we need to do is we need to put a halt. It's like somewhere in this mechanism to stop the damage, stop it from getting further and further along, stabilize it, and then identify what needs to be done to reverse it. And we do that by identifying like what specific vitamins and minerals you have and handling those organs, identifying what is the correct dietary change for you. And so I kind of already skipped ahead to my message about this, but if you guys wouldn't mind taking just a minute and filling out the sugar quiz that's in your packets. So I don't know, did any of you mark down 4 or more falses? Yeah. Oh my goodness, me too. I mean, you're all, everyone here is, either just started the program or has been doing the program for a long time, or, it's a work in progress, but it does mean struggle with sugar. I know I struggle with sugar, and the reason I identify it is really because I can take this away, and I don't know where my little sticky went, but I have one that's just sugar on it that I put across the top that I seem to misplace. Maybe it's waiting in the other room. But the point really, besides putting it up there, is just really that if you imagine where the word sugar is, sugar can cause nutritional deficiency, sugar can cause organ dysfunction. I can remember being in college and being like, I'm getting sick. I'm gonna eat ice cream because I deserve it or whatever, and I want it. And then the next day being so much sicker. Probably for so many reasons there, knowing that I don't do well with dairy. But it doesn't matter. Like there's the messages getting sent to your brain too of like the body, these immune deficient, or not immune deficient, excuse me, like the bugs that are in there like causing this immune challenge are sending messages to your brain saying feed me, make me stay alive, make it. And so it starts that pattern. And so a big piece of doing this work of keeping your immune system up, of having these tools so that you can respond well to the nutrition and that you can handle your health with whole food supplements and help boost your immunity with whole food supplements, is addressing your diet and working on your diet and working on the sugar component and lessening it. So when you have a down moment, you can flip over to the other side of your sugar quiz, which has 146 reasons why sugar is ruining your health. But number 1 on the top is sugar can suppress the immune system, right? So it just plays a huge role. And I really believe strongly that it's tied very much to why this time of year we struggle so much, and why so many things perpetuate and get passed around from kids. And like it's sad to see. It's sad to see in this Gemma's little school, all those little kids coughing, or a little note being like, we've got coughs going around, and I'm just like, oh well, what we could change there, you know. Yeah. And that's why we're working on changing it. And it's why I'm passionate about what I do, why I'm trying to spread the word about it, you know, why we encourage you to share with your friends and family about this program, about this work, or to find someone near them. Because with this technique of nutrition response testing, we really work on pinpointing the individual nutrition deficiencies and figure it out for the individual. And so for some of you who are new and just learning about this, is part of the reason we encourage you to come to the talk is so that you can kind of understand what's happening. You know, it's like, oh yeah, well, she pushes on my arm and I know tells me to take certain supplements and change my diet, but like what's actually happening there? What's like the response of the body? So I was going to pull Cindy up to demonstrate that. But the idea that we all have energy, right? That we're all giving off energy. Here of us, we're all in close quarters, so we're sharing each other's energy. And the idea of hypothermia can give us a bit of an explanation of what's happening in the body with the nutrition response testing. So with the idea of hypothermia, right, you know, you get really, really cold, and the body, in efforts to stay alive, you know, it draws the energy from your fingertips, from your toes, and it protects your core organs so that you can stay alive. And it sacrifices what is not needed, because you can lose your fingers and you can lose your toes. And the same principle is in play here, because if I ask, like I asked you all to put your arm out and match my pressure, and I asked Cindy to put her arm out and match my pressure, she's able to press it into my hand and match it because she's healthy, she's strong, her body's able to match that energy. But let's say that she's got something going on with her thyroid, right? And the thyroid is a little butterfly-shaped gland right here on the neck. And if I touch on that thyroid and I irritate it and I annoy it and I put pressure on it, if there's something not going right with the functioning of that organ, the body's going to want to protect it. And so it actually draws the energy away from her arm where she's matching my pressure, protects the thyroid, and the arm goes down. And so, yeah, cool. All these years we didn't know how it worked. But so what we do is when I'm doing what I call a body scan and I'm just touching on all different organ systems, if the body is able to match my pressure, then I know that there's not any stress going on with any particular organ system. But if I arrive at a certain point and the arm goes down, then I know that's an area that the body needs help repairing or is not functioning as optimally as it could. And sometimes it correlates with blood work, or it correlates with different things that medical tests show up on, and other times it's totally subclinical. It's just things that's headed in a certain direction. You know, we're catching it before it gets there, or it's something that a medical doctor would be like, no, we don't think there's anything wrong with you, right? And so, as you know, we put the test kits on to identify if there's anything causing stress to that organ, to identify that first, and then we use the whole food supplements to basically offer the body nutrients that repair these certain organs. And if the body likes it, basically it picks up off the energy that's in the food, that's in the supplement, just like we can pick up on energy from the sun coming from really far away, and we can feel that heat. And the body likes that energy, then her arm will go back to being strong because the body knows it has something that's going to take away that stress and help repair it. But as you've seen, oftentimes, you know, it can go through multiple things, and I can be like, oh, nope, that doesn't help you. But, oh yes, that one will, you know, and that's how we isolate it and really pinpoint it to the individual. So, thank you, Cindy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any questions about any of that? No, it's really cool. It's fast, right? It cuts to the chase. Like, you don't have to do a lot of guesswork. When I was going through my master's degree and they were talking to me about how to do nutritional counseling with people, they'd be like, well, if you have this group of symptoms, you can try suggesting that they do this. And if you have this group of symptoms, you can try this line of supplements or doing that. But it was really literally guesswork. And they'd be like, all right, have them take this for a month. And if they come back and they're feeling better, great, that's the thing they should take. And if they aren't feeling better, then you try something else. And that's not a standard of care that I want to be able to offer people, you know what I mean? And like with this, I'm able to be so much faster and really pinpoint it to the person. And even if it takes that time of the months of it needing to build up in the system and for people to feel better, at least I have a tool, an assessment tool, to know that I'm going in the right direction. So that's one of the reasons why Can't imagine doing it any other way anymore. But what it's called is called design clinical nutrition. So as you know, it's really specific to the individual, their symptoms, their problems, and there's not just a one-size-all approach. It's a little bit like if we were all getting suits made, and the suits look the same in the sense of we all had the same buttons and the same colors, but everyone's inseams and measurements were unique to them. And that's why, like, clients who here, they all have a general kind of overall similarity to either how their diets look or, you know, they're all taking supplements, but no one's on the exact same program. Cool. Yeah. So what we're working on is we're working on the overall health of the person, of you, of us. And it's not a quick fix. You know, as you all know, you're trying something new. It's a little different, and it takes time. But it's safe and natural. You can be on medications or not be on medications. There's no interaction, and it's one of those things that I strongly believe. Like if the person in your life is a nutrition response testing case, then like nothing will help them as much. So I hope you all learned a bunch tonight. We are also doing some taste testing because Standard Process has just come out with a new all vegetarian-based protein powder, which I like because up until now they had a lot of things that were whey-based, and I see people dealing with a lot of dairy sensitivities. And then the other one that they made was rice protein-based, which I deal with a lot of people with grain sensitivities. And while I would totally prefer that everyone got their protein sources from eating their eggs and eating their meat and things like that, the protein powders really fit a need of what people seem to like in terms of making shakes, of being fast, busy lifestyle. And so these are very simple. It's, pea protein, pumpkin seed protein, and sesame seed protein. And then they've flavored one vanilla and one chocolate. And they did sweeten them with some healthier sweetener options. They did coconut tree sap and monk fruit sweetener. So again, in terms of a lot of the protein powders that are out there, there are many, many options. Really overwhelming, actually, how many options there are and where they're sourced from and, the quality of them. And that's one thing you can, when you have a company you can trust, you can at least trust like where they're sourcing things and things like that, and knowing that it can be being grown out at the farm. And so we thought it's a fun treat for all of you coming out tonight. If you're interested, we have some samples of the chocolate. It's in just straight full-fat coconut milk from the can, and we have little samples right in back. And do you guys have any questions for me about anything that I talked about this evening? No? So far?
You did such a great job.
Oh my goodness. No? Yeah? Okay. No, so you got some tools. You're going to have your medicine chest, some things that you're going to try out if you get sick, or you're going to knock on wood, none of you are going to get sick because you take such good care of yourselves.
What is this?
It's the protein powder.
It's a protein powder I was just describing. You might not have heard me, Sarah, but it's a chocolate flavored pea and sesame seed and pumpkin seed protein powder in full fat coconut milk.
Yeah.
So you're welcome to try it. It's Sophie approved. In terms of your program.
Actually, that's pretty good.
Isn't it pretty good? I know.
I thought it would be.
I tried it. I actually think it's too sweet. So what I like to do, I shouldn't have said that before you've tried it, but is you could cut it in half. Again, if you still wanted the same protein amount, you could substitute it half with the collagen peptides, which are the collagen peptides are a powder that we also carry that's derived from the hides of grass-fed cows, and the collagen is really high in gelatin, and it feeds your skin, it feeds your hair, it feeds your nails, it feeds the linings of the intestines, need a lot of that, and I love it too, and it's tasteless and odorless, so you can mix it into whatever and make it taste like what you want, but for folks who want something that's a little bit more pre-mixed, ready to go, and you don't have to make it taste like something, you could do half of that protein powder and half of this, so then you'd be getting like some of the flavors. And I mean, the main thing that Standard Process advertises about this one is they worked really hard to make it be a complete protein. So even though it's all plant-based, it's got all the spectrum of the amino acids, whereas like the Vital Proteins is not a complete protein in that way. Mix them together, give it a try if you're so inclined. There are, there are just so many of these on the market right now. That's good to know what actually tastes good and is simple ingredients. Because you can buy ones particularly, even really great companies, they just have probiotics in them. They have so many different fruit extracts and different vegetable extracts, and I just tend to find that it really overwhelms people's bodies. So I just encourage people to bring their proteins powders in to be tested, and then very often I have to tell them that they shouldn't take it. Sometimes it goes over well. But what's the review committee think? Things all right? Yeah. Oh, it's good to get more feedback too. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming out tonight, everybody. If you have other questions, I know it's a busy night, so I can send you on your way. So I appreciate you all taking the time with your evening to be here. Yeah. All right, and our next talk is going to be even more exciting in terms of the tasting options, just so you know. It's a preparations for the holidays. So it's going to be a treats night. It's in a month, right? It is Thursday night. Tuesday, thank you. The 16th? I shouldn't be announcing this. The 14th. The 14th. Tuesday the 14th in November. Reba of Ithaca No Grainer is actually going to be here with some of her treats. So she's a client who, due to she loved to bake, and due to all the dietary changes of what she had to do here, she developed a whole line of grain-free desserts and things. So she makes that are amazing. So she makes like muffins and cookies and all sorts of great stuff. So she's agreed to come and have some samples. And then of course, Cindy is amazing baker as well. So we're all planning on contributing a little, so that there'll be lots of samples and lots of recipes. And it's gonna be a fun way to like gear up for the holiday season and have things that won't crash your body, right? And crash your health.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.